Hmm. 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 Let's pretend this is a seaside. Let's pretend this is near the ocean. Let's pretend this is some beautiful body of water with a sunset. And not just some small pond in the front yard of the house. With a beautiful sky and messy hair after. Hi, Tom. Hi, Frank. Hi, guys. How you guys doing? It seems like, hi. I've been gardening. Look, there's some really nice reflections. I helped build this deck when I was a kid with much beration. Beration? Is that the right words? I don't think so. Listen to the sounds of my people, the motorcycles going by on the freeway. You're kind of getting a watery reflection sky type thing going on. Yeah, gardening. I've just been cutting down a bunch of sumac with their gigantic root network going in everywhere. Weeded, planted jalapenos and bell peppers. Harvested a lot of plantain leaf and yeah, Indiana, well, Rotterdam or anywhere. Shabbat Shalom, baby. I have been enjoying being here. I've been here a week. It marks 2 weeks since I left the beach in Mexico, and that means I left on the new moon, and today is the full moon. Hello, happy full moon to you. Full moon, Gemini and Sagittarius. Moon in Sagittarius, Sun in Gemini. Today also marks the day that the Taoist month of the horse starts, and we're in the year of the rat, and the rat is the most water, and the horse is the most fire. And back in the early days of Taoism, like 5,000 something years ago, the yin and the yang were represented not by a white and a black, but by a red and a blue, the fire and water. Those were the archetypes of yin and yang. And that is the horse and the rat, and as far as the animals are concerned. And so this is the month. Yes, Tom, you are a rat, and you are a metal rat, and this is a metal rat year, and this is your golden year. Those of you born in 1960, who I am so very attracted to. I am a horse. Horse and rat are polar opposites, which is good in some ways, but also a lot of clashing. It is considered to be a bad combination in the Chinese zodiac for relationships, but also it's just considered a bad energy. Like, so I got a warning this morning from one of my Taoist astrology apps saying, this month is going to be very difficult because it's the horse month in the year of the rat, and all of this craziness that's going to happen is going to get inflamed because it's opposition. It's not like, oh, I'm coming this way, or oh, I'm coming this way. It's this. With the two strongest forces, the yin and the yang archetypes. So anyway, that's kind of a nice segue into, I mean, I've been making notes about things I want to talk about, but I responded to a friend of mine last Friday? Yeah, last Friday night, a friend of mine who I met in Thailand last year, and she got stuck in Ecuador during this time of being places while we have to shelter in place. And in the COVID times, she got stuck in Ecuador, and she's like, you're in New York City? Are you going to the protest? And I'm like, I only found about oh, she maybe wrote this to me Friday night. Yeah, it was like Friday night last week. And I was like, I only found out about the protest about an hour ago by a friend sending me pictures of cop cars on fire, and hearing about like a big city bus in New York City that had been commandeered by the police to cart off all the people who had been arrested, and the guy who was driving the bus walked, and he's like, dude, I'm not your gimp, I don't work for the NYPD. And then later the union who like represented the bus drivers like tweeted, yeah, we don't work for the NYPD, they can't tell us what to do. So it was, I told her, I was like, yeah, I just heard about that, and there's like people getting arrested, and apparently the assembly people of Brooklyn were there at the protest and got beaten with batons and got pepper sprayed and then got handcuffed and arrested. So like if the assembly people who were peacefully protesting, that happened to, not to mention, and this is before all the like looting started in New York City at least, because I don't know if it was already happening in Minneapolis. I was like, yeah, that's not something I want to do today because I'm supposed to fly out tomorrow, and that's just, you know. So when in the face of protests starting to happen and me going to Indiana as opposed to going to the protests in New York, there was this big part of white guilt that blossomed around me where I'm like, oh man, this is white privilege. I'm going to go stay with my parents who live in a Barbie dream house, which later, that's what I always called them as a kid, but they later have been called McMansions. My parents don't live in a subdivision. I never grew up in a subdivision. I grew up in a little house next to 8 little houses in a row surrounded by like 2 miles of cornfields in every direction that every few years was soybean fields, but you know, it was all cornfields. And that was like my childhood until I was 10. And then when I was 10, my dad bought 9 acres of land at what used to be a farm. There was a big old barn on it that was attached to another house nearby. And he built what I call the Barbie dream house, because it was like a mismatch of architectural styles that I thought looked tacky. But you know, I was a super judgmental kid. I'm actually still pretty judgmental. I was a super judgmental kid, and I was mocking and cruel about it. And I'm just trying to see if I can get a little bit better light because I'm such a nerd. It's a little bit better. I'm wearing my Jasper, Indiana t-shirt, representing, yo. Sorry. So I'm like aware that I get to get on an airplane and fly to Indiana, and a big clear part of the reason that I was going to Indiana was I wanted to be comfortable. I wanted to like brush my teeth without worrying about poisoning myself when I rinsed my mouth out with water. You know, in Mexico I had to like, you know, use drinking water out of a separate vessel. It's not a huge thing, but it was just like, I just want the luxury of not worrying about poisoning myself with water. I want to be able to take showers. I want to not be sweating my ass off every night and maybe eaten by ants or getting dengue fever. I was expecting that I would come here and wear a mask every day for 2 weeks around my family inside of the house to protect them, but I quickly realized they didn't care, and that the reality of Indiana did not necessitate me doing that, and that my mother had already gone back to work and she was only sometimes wearing a mask at work, and my dad was going around every day doing all sorts of things. And even though he said he was social distancing, I followed him one day and he like was not social distancing at all, didn't wear a mask. So I was like, you know, me wearing a mask at home to protect my family, even though I'm not sure, but I was just, you know, I went through 5 airplanes and was in New York City for a week. So that's high risk activity, possibly. I was like, well, I don't, you know, I'm not going to be the only disease vector here, so I can relax. So I wore a mask at the house like the first 3 days I was here, and then stopped. But I didn't sleep very well the first few days. I've had a lot of caffeine today, forgive me. And then I started like resting. But the first few days, it was my birthday. Hi, it's my birthday. I turned 42 this year. It's the ultimate answer for the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. 42. I'll cut my hair in a couple years. Not when I'm 43, probably when I'm 44. Or I might just wait until I'm 45, which will be the year 2023, which 23 would be a fun year to shave my head, right? I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, the first few days I didn't sleep well because I had my birthday. I had a lot of trouble getting here, flights being canceled, blah, blah, blah. Not interesting. But then the night of my birthday, I had eaten a lot of chocolate cake. My sister made me this amazing chocolate cake, but I ate a lot of it like at 11 o'clock because that was the time it was ready. And I could not sleep because it was way too strong. Hi, Everett. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to you. Nice feet. Yeah, thank you. Love you, dear. I was like, I couldn't see your messages all the way back here. So I didn't sleep that night because I literally spent the entire night buzzed on caffeine, reading the news reports about protests and riots and alternative people taking advantage of the situation, and maybe National Guard or... But anyway, you've read, I don't need to recapitulate it, but I wrote out all this stuff about like my white guilt of... There was this... I'll keep distracting when I get to that point. There was this pulp song that was really big when I went to live in England in 1995 called Common People. You may have heard it. You probably heard it even if you don't know you've heard it. And William Shatner did it on one of his albums in his silly, speaky voice, sing-songy kind of way. But the chorus was, well, the pinnacle of the song is, "You will never understand how it feels to live your life with no meaning or control and with nowhere else to go. You are amazed that they exist and they burn so bright while you can only wonder why. Rent a flat above a shop, cut your hair and get a job, smoke some fags and play some pool. Pretend you never went to school, but still you'll never get it right, because when you're laying at bed at night watching roaches climb the wall, you could call your dad and he could stop it all." And although I sang that song many times as a teenager, I was like, I will never call my dad. He will never be able to stop it all. I will suffer through all sorts of horrible situations, and I'm never going to be the prodigal son in return. But, you know, I was angry, and I was hating my family, and I was punishing them and punishing myself. And I've gotten much more interested in the idea of healing and integration and all that stuff in recent years. So, like, I spent 4 months with my parents last year in an effort to see if I could be with them and not hate them, not get triggered, not hate Indiana, but like just be here without hatred in my heart, because I was so hateful when I was here, which is also another thing I want to talk about today. I have so many things I want to talk about. I really enjoyed being here, but, you know, I miss you, world. It's already getting dark. I felt the tremendous weight of white male privilege to be able to leave where the protests, be able to go somewhere that I could just be comfortable, watch TV shows, play video games, eat lots of food, get fat. Even though that wasn't entirely my intention, there were so many times during the COVID pandemic spiral of the beginning where I just wanted to sit and play a video game. And I bought a Nintendo Switch last year because in Zelda, my brother introduced me to what is it called, Breath of the Wild, and I went totally obsessed over it. But I ended up being bored with the Switch when I finished with Zelda, and I gave it to my brother, and I said, let your kids play with it. But his wife wouldn't let his kids play with it, so whatever. So I asked him to send it back to me. He hasn't yet. And my dad is a Fox News watcher, so he has Fox News on whenever he wants to relax. He turns on Fox News and eats in front of the television. When he's not watching Fox News late at night, when he wants to relax, he turns on shows like Law and Order. And I don't know the names of these shows, but they're shows where everybody's yelling at each other and shooting guns at each other. And there's always some really intelligent detective who's figuring out how the people are lying. And then they're going to catch the bad guys and they're going to punish them and make them suffer and make them pay for the... I watched this thing that Owen Pallett had posted by a man named Desmond Cole, who I'd never heard of. He's an actor. He's a black man from, I think, Toronto. And Desmond was like, well, the ultimate solution to this problem we're in is to completely defund the police, to take away all of their toys and their license to kill. So they're not allowed to kill. Take away their guns, take away their tasers, they may, take away their batons, and take all the money we're giving to militarize the police and actually use it to build up these communities that are such problem communities, but like give them enough money to eat and give them enough money to study, build up their schools so that they can actually be educated and not just be like animals, like 60 people in a room with no control. White people neighborhoods, they're always like, there's only like 20 people to a classroom and the teachers can give each of them enough attention. So there's like, that's the solution. Just defund the police and give it to these marginalized communities. And when I said that to my dad, because he was watching Fox News and I felt a little triggered, he was like, you obviously don't understand the way the world works. Which is really the point I wanted to talk about today, was that there are multiple concurrent realities running alongside each other, kind of like parallels in that they don't interact. They're kind of, if you're like looking at a train yard, there's a whole bunch of train lines together and all the trains can move alongside each other, but they can't actually interact. And I think that that's a big deal of what's going on in the world. You could say things like other countries are concurrent realities that are running along that we can't interact with. They have completely different versions of realities that we can't actually understand, we can't actually interact with because they're so different. And any kind of assumption that they're just like us is actually incorrect because they have totally different values. And when I listen to Fox News and I listen to my dad and him telling me about the truth of the world and the way the world really works, I think, I believe you, the world really works that way for you. You have completely different values. You have completely different truths. Oh, this isn't working now. Got to be careful. You have completely different values. You have completely different truths. And interesting. This is bad. This is a bad technology thing. So yeah, this isn't broadcasting anymore. I'm completely in the black. I kind of want to finish my spiel here, but I don't think it's going to work because I've lost signal and messages are coming through to me, but I'm not broadcasting. Lost not network connection. But it's recording. It's going to disconnect. If I go into the ugly garage, it might work again. I will wait as I walk through. There's like likes coming through. There we go. Wow. There we go. Hi, guys. Hi, baby. Hi, baby. It's really nice to see all your faces. While I was disconnected, I was looking through all the messages of people having written me things and try to pull off the ticks off my legs, whatever. I'm in the garage now where there's Wi-Fi. I understand. Thank you, baby. No, it disconnected again. So, I'll be in a minute. Yeah, sure. I'll put these clothes in there. Okay. Such simple, lovely things. But there are totally different values. Like, let's say that white men with money and power and who believe they belong to some exclusive boys club where they can just do anything they want and get anything they want, like the villains of the Me Too movement and lots of other villains of lots of other villainous things of like tax sheltering and tax evasion and I don't know, anybody abusing their white male privilege that it's really hard for us to negotiate understanding. I know myself, it's hard for me to see it and understand it and feel it. But to be clear that there are so many different worlds that we live in. Oh, what an ugly background. Oh, no, what an ugly background. Oh, what an ugly background. It's a little better. Ugh. I'll just do it like this. There are so many different values that everyone in the world has. And I was thinking, like, to tell my dad that, like, you live in a completely different world than all of the other people in your immediate family. That we are people who want to create. We want to go into nature and appreciate nature and love it and think it's beautiful. We want to plant things. We want to create art and music, write books. I mean, my brother really has that romantic idea. My mother's a super gardener. My dad really loves going into nature, but with a gun. Like, he's a super, like, he doesn't go into nature unless he gets to shoot things. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I was trying to explain to my mother that destructors, as Morrissey famously quoted in one of his songs, all the carnivores and destructors, like, destruction is necessary. People who value destruction, people who think we should live in a war zone and kill all of the people that we want to have power over. I think to a certain degree that's necessary to I don't know, the people who want to destroy everything, because there are people who want to create and there are people who want to destroy. And the thing that I was taught, my dad makes false teeth. So the things that I was thinking about when I was talking to my mom was, because my dad creates false teeth, right? But teeth are a big part of our body that destroy things so that we can live. Like if you take a beautiful, perfect carrot and you put it in your mouth and you just break it up into tiny pieces with your teeth, that's necessary for you to live. Like much of life, it is necessary to destroy mountains, to destroy forests, to destroy animals in order for us to live. Destruction is like necessary. So we have to be, to a certain degree, at least like clear and honest about that, and try to be at peace and humility with it, that we have to like kill things, be them carrots or cows, in order to live. And unfortunately, in so many cultures, like Native American cultures, which are often romanticized as being such peaceful and integrated with nature. Like I was just down in Mexico going to lots of history museums, and they would just talk about every summer it was war season, where you would just go to the neighboring tribes and kill everybody and take their women and take whatever things that they had amassed, any of their grain and any of their gold. And that happened all the time up here in North America as well, what we call the United States and Canada, that the Native American tribes were always killing each other. And I don't know. So these like this idea of the conservative right in the United States that love the idea of belittling people and mocking them and making fun of them, and they really are trying hard not to say it, but they're like, you should just go into the streets and kill all these stupid black people with your military force, because then this would all be over. I don't think we can fault them, because that's the actual reality they live in. And for those of us who don't believe that that's a sane or sensible choice to make, we live in a completely other reality. And like when I was younger, I used to try to understand good and evil. I didn't think there was such a thing. I never thought there was such a thing. And I still love to talk about Hitler and be like, he was just trying to do good. He didn't realize he was evil. He had learned a bunch of weird shit and he thought it would help. He made a mistake. Not that I like him, but it's a compassion exercise. But to think that we have all these poisonous chemicals to kill the insects because it's good for us. Anyway, the idea that you can call, one place good or one place evil. I always remember from history class the idea of the Crusades, that these people who called themselves Christian, and Christianity is supposed to be based on the teachings of Christ, and Christ was some dude who was just like, just love each other. Like that was it. He was like, just love each other. And they used that love, like to love you, to love me, to love our clan. They used that love to hate huge amounts of people and kill them and torture them and do horrible things in the name of love, right? And I don't know which is good or which is evil, but there's certainly a weird divide between the two. And it could be fire and water. It could be yin and yang. It could be black and white. It could be whatever weird line of division, what membrane exists. But I think I'm over my white guilt already. Yes, I'm sure I can help in some way or another. I'm trying to educate myself in whatever weird way I can. Like, I should listen to more Donald Glover. Maybe he can teach me things that I don't understand about the African American condition. Because even though I've had plenty of black friends in my life, when they tell me about the actual fear they live in their day-to-day existence, that is just hard for me to conceptualize. Like, you think walking by a police officer with your shirt off is going to get you killed? And they're like, honey, I'm black in the United States. Don't you understand? And I'm like, no, I totally don't understand. It's mind-blowing to me. But I understand that it's another reality. And there's only so much that I can do to actually understand it. Besides, I've always been really annoyed with the idea of intellectually understanding other people's plights and then getting righteous about it. Like I know so many people do about Israel and Palestine who have never been to Israel and Palestine and are themselves not Israeli or Palestinian. And I'm just like, yeah, you can have an intellectual understanding about injustice, but retribution is different than injustice, and righteous anger is definitely different than justice. So yeah, I've never been somebody who's wanted to be an intellectual advocate of civil rights. I want to authentically do something, and I don't know how to do that in this situation. I've never gone to a protest in my life. I've never thought it was a good idea. I don't like war. Not that I think protests are a bad idea or rebellion's a bad idea. I'd say I've never been moved to do it. If I was authentically moved to do it, I would go totally, when I was a teenager, man, if I were in New York City and during this time when I was a teenager, I would be throwing Molotov cocktails. I would be screaming shit. I would be like fucking crazy. But I'm a different person now. I'm a different kind of crazy. And I guess so I had to let go of that white guilt thing, and now I'm gardening. And I'm not playing video games or watching TV yet. I am eating too much already. That's all right. But I just wanted to kind of connect. The internet is not connecting very well. This is also, unlike Mexico, but different, not a place of really good internet connection. I want it to be outside, obviously. It doesn't work super well, or maybe if I did it earlier in the day, it would work better. But for any of you who are watching, it's been nice seeing your faces and your names scroll past, and I'm glad I was able to blather for a little bit, and I'm going to go inside and chill out, wash the sweat and the dirt off me, and maybe I'll blog about my gardening tomorrow. I don't know. Love you. I hope you're well wherever you are. I hope you're doing what you think is a good thing to do at this time in transition of reality, being it praying or meditating or doing qigong or writing letters or donating or whatever it is. My mother told me that a nun told her when she was 9 to pray for world peace every day. And my mother was like, how do you do that? And she said, do 3 Hail Marys and ask God for world peace. My mother says that since she was 9 years old, she's done that every day in the morning and every day in the evening. And I think that that is not an insubstantial thing to do. I think to dedicate your heart in whatever way makes sense to you to world peace is a huge gift to the entire world, especially to do it twice a day. So there's lots of different channels in reality that we can interact with, and prayer is meditation, and love is a good one. And there's lots of other good things. Anyway, love to you guys, and thanks for being, and talk to you later.